loftier conversations. So my name is Jeff Liebman. I'm the faculty director of the Rappaport Institute for Greater Boston here at the Kennedy School, and I'm a professor of public policy here at the Kennedy School. And it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the celebration dinner for this year's Rappaport Summer Fellows. For 25 years, this fellowship program has enabled Boston area graduate students to spend a summer working in the public sector, and the fellows tonight are joining an alumni network of over 700 fellows at this point. I remember the very first time I came to one of these dinners. I had just come back from serving in the Obama administration, and I didn't have any formal association with the Institute, and the faculty director at the time, Ed Glazer, said, "You have to come to this dinner." And I was sort of skeptical, like, why do I want to give up an evening to come to a dinner? And he said, no, you got to come to this dinner. So I came, and it was the most inspired I'd been like in years. Like, there are all these problems we're facing in society, and to see dozens and dozens of just really talented early career people who are committed to public service working on all of them, it really was like the highlight of my year that year, and it has been that now for like 12 or 13 years that I've been coming to this dinner. So I'm very much looking forward to my annual night of inspiration. The other thing I remember from that first time I came to this dinner is I met Phyllis and Jerry Rappaport for the first time. And I didn't really know anything about them, but I got introduced to them. And so then I went back and started Googling to see who were these people that I'd met. I discovered that Jerry and Phyllis had this vision that the Boston area universities could be a much greater asset to the communities that we're located in a lot of different ways. And from the research perspective, helping political public servants solve problems, but also in creating a pipeline of talent into Boston area, city, and state government. And that not only had they had this vision, they'd actually brought it to fruition. I mean, it's not that hard to have a vision, but to actually make it happen is really hard. And they had done this. I'll say a little bit more about Phyllis later, because after dinner, it's my job to introduce her. But I also, when I was Googling, learned about Jerry Rappaport. And I was stunned that first time, and then as I got to know him, even more stunned, to meet someone who had literally made a difference to Boston area governance in 7 different decades. When I met him for the first time, he was probably, 83 or something like that. And I'm not going to go through all of the 7 decades, but just to give you a flavor, when he was a law student at Harvard Law School in the 1940s, Jerry Rappaport thought that law students should get some exposure to issues of public policy, and not just case books. So he created the Law School Forum, which still exists today, to bring policymakers to campus to speak. And the radio broadcasts of these events at Harvard Law School became one of the most popular shows in Boston during the 1940s. And then in 1949, at the age of 22, Jerry was the campaign manager when John Hines, you ever seen the Hines Auditorium? That John Hines. John Hines defeated James Michael Curley and ushered in a new era of Boston politics. And just to understand how much of a new era this was, Curley got elected mayor for the first time in 1914, and this was 1949. So really talking a new era, ending the Curley machine. And of course, without a Rappaport Fellowship, the current mayor probably wouldn't have been mayor. And so Jerry truly played a role in the 2 most important elections in the last 150 years in Boston, which is just incredible, and 70 years apart. So there's more stories. I'm not going to do all of them, but in the 1950s, Jerry and a bunch of his friends put together something called the New Boston movement, and in 1952, they elected Jack Kennedy to the U.S. Senate. So that's the kind of every decade impact that Jerry had in this area. And again, I could go on and on, but I have to let some other people speak. So I'll do one more story. So in the 1950s was a really bad decade for Boston. 100,000 people left for the suburbs. The economy of Boston was collapsing. There were 800,000 people living in Boston in 1950. There were 700,000 living in 1960. And this is sort of relevant today as we're sort of thinking about housing production and what that means for communities. But Jerry thought that if we could build high quality housing in Boston, people would move back. And then restaurants would come back, businesses would come back, jobs would come back. And so he led this big economic development area, economic development project in the West End, and that succeeded. It brought a lot of people to the city. Restaurants started opening again, and that created the conditions for the Government Center project. If you can imagine Government Center and City Hall, all that became possible because Jerry had proven about half a mile over that you could bring people back to the city, and then all of Faneuil Hall gets developed after that, and that whole development starts with Jerry's work. So I tell these stories in part because I sort of think all of you fellows should know the history of the person who started this fellowship and who your fellowship is named after. But also I just think it's such an inspiring story about how you can have, you can do public service in a lot of different ways in a lot of different decades of your life. So I just think it's a nice image for all of us to have as we think of different ways we can contribute in different times in our lives. Okay, so it's now my pleasure to introduce the Dean of the Kennedy School, Jeremy Weinstein, to say his own words of welcome. Jeremy is a distinguished political scientist with expertise in civil wars, political violence, and ethnic politics. He's also held senior roles in the White House and in the State Department, including at the National Security Council and at the U.S. mission to the United Nations. Welcome, Jeremy.
When people introduce me with my expertise, civil wars and political violence, I hear like a groan in the room, and people are like, what kind of introduction is this going to be? But look, it's my great pleasure to say a few words of welcome to this extraordinary group. It's a privilege to be with energized young people who are imagining and pursuing careers in public service, to be surrounded by the hosts and the mentors who make those pathways possible, and Phyllis and the Rappaport Foundation, who had this vision of creating this pipeline of talent into the greater Boston area. I just wanted to share two things by way of welcome tonight. The first is about why this fellowship was ahead of its time. So I stepped into this role as Dean of the Kennedy School just a couple years ago. And for me, the Kennedy School is a powerful institution in my own life. I was an alum of the Kennedy School in the 1990s, but it represents the intersection of two things that I care about a great deal. One is public service and the importance of attracting people to public service and educating people for public service because of the nobility of that role and the central importance that our public institutions play in life. And then the second is the role of higher education. And one of the amazing things about this fellowship program, the center and the institute and the network of fellows across more than 8 universities this year, is that it reflects a vision that those two things need to come together in important ways. That there is a central role for higher education and for universities working in partnership with the communities in which they're embedded, those people who lead in elected roles and appointed roles, to care for the public good in these environments. And the challenges that we face right now in higher education, the challenges that we face in public service, demand an even greater interaction between these two central pillars of our civic life. That is, people who wonder about what higher education is for and what contributions it makes need to see and understand things like this incredible pathway for the Rappaport Fellows to contribute during their higher education degree programs, but then also to pursue careers. And of course, our public institutions need to be able to tap into and inspire the next generation of talented individuals to careers as public servants. So 25 years ago, Phyllis and Jerry had this vision, this network that Jeff described of over 700 fellows who occupy absolutely central roles in our political and social life, including the mayor of this great city, is just a demonstration of what that partnership can be. And it's part of what attracted me back to the Kennedy School to be a part of that great enterprise. Now, the Rappaport Fellows Program did not exist when I was a graduate student at the Kennedy School. And so my career had to take another path. So the second thing I wanted to say is my first internship after my summer at the Kennedy School was in the federal government, because there wasn't this program pulling me locally. And I went to the White House, it was 1998, And perhaps I ended up studying civil war and political violence and with a career in foreign policy because Rappaport had not yet created this fellowship program. But I do reflect now, 29 years after that first internship, I reflect a lot on that internship as a graduate student and how much it has actually shaped virtually every aspect of my career subsequently. So the first thing is it was this amazing opportunity to try out skills that I was developing in graduate school in a setting with real stakes, to make mistakes under the mentorship and advice of people who were already in leadership roles and could help me understand what it would mean to contribute professionally in this environment. So it was my first foreign policy job, and I learned a lot about what it was to make and design foreign policy and how the process worked and how the interagency worked. It was so different than reading about it in a book. And I was energized by it, and I saw, what kind of role I could play. And so that leads to the second point. All of a sudden, I could see a career path. Before that, I had been someone who was interested in lots of things. I did well in school. I got positive feedback from doing well in school. So I was like, let me do some more school. That's clearly a place that, things are going well for me. But I saw in government not only what a career trajectory could look like, but also I began to understand how I might want to show up professionally in a career setting. That is, when I was going back to school for the next year, what is it that I should double down on in terms of the expertise and skills that would enable me to contribute in ways that were consistent with my purpose? And then the third, and maybe one of the most important things that came from that first internship experience, is that in 1998, when I was like 24, 1 year after I started at the Kennedy School, I probably formed some of the most important relationships that have shaped the rest of my career. Last week, I was in Aspen with my mentor from 1998, who I've now worked with subsequently in multiple presidential administrations. And that was true for a whole set of people that I worked with during that period. And they not only modeled for me what a career path could look like, but they created opportunities for me throughout the course of my career. And so I think often about that first internship, and it gives me just a true belief in what the generosity of the Rappaport Foundation and what this extraordinary fellowship program enables for all of you. You are where I was 29 years ago. And I can just imagine what the long-lasting impact is going to be, not just for the communities and agencies that you're serving this year, but also how it might shape your own career. So with that, just great appreciation for you all in taking on these roles as Rappaport Fellows, for our hosts and mentors. Welcome for our fellows to this community of more than 700 alums. And I wish you such a terrific evening tonight and also the rest of this summer experience. I hope it's truly rewarding. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you to enjoy dinner at your tables, and I know people will bring you back together later this evening. Welcome.
everyone. My name is Polly O'Brien, and I'm going to start the next part of this evening. First of all, I would like to thank our partners over at Boston College Law School, Faculty Director Patricia McCoy, Executive Director Amanda Teow, and Administrative Assistant Alexis Albert, along with my colleagues at the Rappaport Institute, Jeff Liebman, who you've already heard from, and Catherine Carlson, the Executive Director, and Maya Nixich, who is the Administrative Director for the Rappaport Field Office, Field Research Lab, and also Brian E. Martino, who is also with that program. So thank you. Anyone who knows me knows that I am a soccer fan. So before I introduce the fellows, I wanted to do a brief little examination in how soccer explains the Rappaport Fellowship. As we've learned from the World Cup and Ted Lasso, football is life. But I propose that football, or soccer, is also public policy. Soccer is nonlinear, and goals don't happen immediately. There's a more focus on probing, structural improvisation, and sometimes the realize that you have to go backtrack in order to go forward. Success is created by taking advantage of opportunities to score and keeping opponents from doing the same. Opportunities for success are fleeting and built on what was learned about the opponent earlier in the game. Many times it capitalizes on the weaknesses of the opposition or building a play where every player contributes to the outcome. Ultimately, it's a game where players win games, coaches lose games, and referees or external forces ruin them. In this view, fellows who are the new young players who bring new energy and approaches to the game and learn how to play at a higher level through practice and learning from teammates. They learn from their supervisors and mentors who have the experience and vision to make everyone on their teams better, as well as can make or break their team morale. Occasionally, this produces success or goals. More often, it produces possibilities. Success is wonderful. This quote is from a book of essays called Soccer in Sun and Shadow, but I think it fits policy very well. Soccer and policy making is a game of beauty, of dancing and rhythm, of power and sheer determination. It can be violently ugly and downright dangerous, but in all of that, there is an underlying grace that has a pulse and a heartbeat. Both soccer and policymaking can bring a group of people together and forge a community, highlight the highs of winning, and in losses throw you into despair of knowing that you could have done more. And both soccer and policymaking come with just one warning. It can be extremely addictive. In policymaking terms, there's nothing like connecting the right people with the right ideas at the right time. It's a magical process. Some of your wins take time to develop, as does your skills on the pitch. But once they come to fruition, it lifts and changes communities. So I hope that I'm not misguided when I say tonight, we rightly celebrate the people who make this fellowship, that connects the right people and the right ideas, and works hard to do so at the right time. And in doing so, it increases the likelihood that our team, a wide network committed to leaving things a little better than we found them, will occasionally experience the addictive magic of success. So I'd like now to invite the fellows to share their experiences. When the mic gets to you, please stand up and share your 75-second overview. When you're done, please hand the mic to the next fellow at your table or the table beside you. And as a reminder to the audience, it's natural to cheer for excellent players and plays, but please try to hold off on your applause until the end of all the presentations. So the first fellow is Michaela.
Okay, I guess I'm the first fellow. Hi, everyone. I'm Michaela Kaplan. I did my 1L year at Northeastern. And this summer, I've had the immense privilege to work at the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Save your applause. The majority of my work was related to legal questions arising from our office's enactment of the Affordable Homes Act. And I also got to be part of some very fast-paced and exciting conversations about things like rent control, or what I'm calling the Great Rent Control Saga of 2026, which, if you were following, ended a little bit unceremoniously. So before law school, I was a community organizer. And in that role, we demanded a lot from government. And I'm proud of that. I think in a healthy democracy, we should expect great things from our government. But in this summer, I got to see that sometimes the pace of change is hindered not by people who don't care, but by the complexity of work of people who care a great deal. Sometimes the pace of change slows down because of constitutional safeguards or the pace of relationship with stakeholders. So that's something I'm carrying with me in my career, the need to communicate that reality to communities and a grand appreciation for government workers and lawyers. So with that said, I just want to, in addition to thanking the foundation, I want to thank my mentors, Anthony Benedetti, Liz Matos, my amazing supervisors at HLC, including Dave Catrone, who's here. Yeah, we'll pass it on to the next fellow.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Wang. I am a dual degree medical student and public policy student at Harvard Medical School and Harvard Kennedy School. And this summer, I was with the Department of Public Health, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, within the Bureau of Substance Addiction Services, under the supervision of Abby Kim here. She was an amazing supervisor. This summer, most of my work centered on how we as a state respond to emerging trends in the drug supply relating to substance use. This took a couple forms. First, I worked on a national landscape analysis looking at how other states issue public communications relating to spikes in overdoses and contaminants or emerging substances in the drug supply. We presented this to our lived experience advisory pool and gathered feedback to inform BSAS's own development of their own public alerting system. And second, I focused in on one specific emerging substance called kratom, which has been receiving a lot of both federal and state attention, luckily since I started my internship like a month ago. And I think, to me, this summer felt like the culmination of kind of both of my degrees combining medicine and public policy. I feel like it was the best way to think about both at the same time. When it came to kratom, on one hand, I was learning about the clinical impacts, the pharmacology of the substance, which everyone was still trying to understand at the time. And at the same time, I was looking at how the federal policy vacuum led to a market that was unregulated and had been developing very rapidly, and how states and local governments were trying to catch up to that without federal guidance. So I think overall, it definitely reaffirmed to me that I want a career that's centered at the intersection of medicine and public policy. I think to me, it's really a privilege to be able to build relationships with patients, and I think that privilege comes with the responsibility of advocating for them beyond the clinic through public policy. And so I definitely see myself returning to an agency like the DPH in the future.
Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Yee. I'm also a medical and policy student at Harvard. This summer I was really fortunate to work with the Executive Office of Aging and Independence, also known as AGE. And I got to work on the SHINE program. And for those who don't know what the SHINE program is, it's the state's free Medicare counseling for older adults across Massachusetts. Because as you know, health insurance is really complex and really difficult to navigate. And so this summer I got to work on a project to really help expand the SHINE program coverage. And I want to answer the following question: how can we expand access and who is being left behind? And to do that, I worked on a data analysis tool and was able to identify regions covering over 100,000 Medicare beneficiaries across the state and develop targeted recommendations for 15 of the partner organizations affiliated with SHINE. And so we were able to come to this conclusion with this project, which just has been really wonderful. And my main takeaway from this is that the right answer is only half of the problem, or like half of the solution. It really depends on being able, or as in, at the end of the day, having the right idea or having the right data doesn't really get you to the end goal if the people who really matters most are not able to understand, act, or implement on it. And through Deanna's help, we were really able to make this into something that can be worthwhile for the state. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gloria Fortner, and I am an MPA student at Northeastern University. I actually am a violinist. I got my undergrad at Boston Conservatory, and this summer I actually had the privilege of working with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, so it was a really cool intersection of arts and public administration. Mr. Joseph, he's my supervisor, and this summer we actually worked on the Cultural Stabilization Initiative, which is an initiative that's part of the anti-displacement plan from Mayor Wu. And we worked on the intake form, which is a single point of entry for artists who are facing displacement, so they will be able to better navigate government systems. And Mr. Joseph taught me the importance of advocating for arts. I think coming into public administration, I was really scared and also lacked a lot of confidence on how to advocate for arts, especially because there's so many competing interests. But he really taught me not only how much of a necessity arts and culture is to our society and to our humanity, but also how to unapologetically advocate and speak up for the arts. So thank you.
Oh God. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Dooley. I'm currently going for my PhD in social work at Boston University. I am currently placed with the Office of the Child Advocate, and my interests surround child welfare and congregate care specifically, which is an out-of-home placement for kids placed in the child welfare system that have more mental health and behavioral health needs than general child welfare population. Currently, my project I am working on, why is it so difficult for kids in care to get a proper education in this setting? So I worked on recently, one of the highlights is a focus group that we were able to pull together with it under a week, over 20 participants, which is crazy. Like, especially in research terms, we get like 5 people and we're like, oh, this is good, you know? And that was amazing. It was all from all different stakeholders, program directors from group homes, and we're able to hear firsthand what they see as the real issues in congregate care and education. We also, I learned a lot about different organizations within the government too, how different organizations really struggle to kind of work together, and also just how complex the child welfare system is. I thought I knew a lot about it since I've been in the work for about 10 years now, but you always learn something new. So I really enjoyed working in the government, and I could definitely see myself working there, and was happy to get a little taste of it so far. And I want to thank my supervisors, Holly Swan over here, and Melissa Threadgill. I don't know which table you're at now, 8. But yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kara Chung. I am a dual MPP and MBA student with Harvard Kennedy School and the Wharton School of Business. This summer, I had the privilege of working for the Executive Office for Administration and Finance. I was specifically helping support a state commission on a state and local aid program called Payment in Lieu of Taxes, or PILOT, which compensates municipalities that host state-owned tax-exempt land. I was lucky enough to be there for the commission kickoff and helped plan some of the early meetings, and also helped organize 4 different public listening sessions across the state, all the way to the South Coast, and we went all the way out to Pittsfield on Friday, and got to hear from over probably 250 members of the public, which was really exciting. I chose ANF in part with the idea that policy happens through budgets, and this summer definitely reinforced that, but I also learned that good policy making is also about strong people skills and building trust across different stakeholders, whether it's in different agencies or with someone who is a little angry with state government for for not getting enough aid for their town. I had the privilege of working with some incredible people, Danielle Cerny and Carolyn Emlendorf, who aren't here tonight, but I'm very grateful to them and to my mentors as well, and grateful to the Rappaport Institute for this opportunity to explore public service.
Hello, my name is Alessandro Uribe-Rutowski, and I'm studying urban planning here at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. And this summer, I was placed with the Massachusetts Port Authority real estate team. And my project this summer was working on 2 underutilized properties that the Massport owns, one in Charlestown, an industrial property, and then a commercial property in the Seaport District that are currently underutilized, and I helped explore highest and best use scenarios as well as realistic market conditions for these properties that could serve the Commonwealth in the best way. And I think this summer, what I learned the most is coming from a municipal background, and there's the big B word, the bureaucracy, how slow government is. Massport fully turned that around for me, and seeing how an authority that not just generates policy, but actually drives revenue and drives action for the Commonwealth to drive revenue and be not just the mover of goods and people, but be a economic development agency where it's the front door for all future commerce, and for people coming into Massachusetts come through Massport property, whether it's the port where the cruise terminal is, or where it's Boston Logan, or whether it's the Seaport commercial portfolio that Massport has. And I think the best thing I learned from my summer wasn't just in the department I was in, but it just being able to understand what Massport's role is in the Commonwealth as a whole. So for the World Cup, as Polly mentioned, it was a massive World Cup summer. I worked in Terminal E, guiding visitors coming for World Cup days and guiding them to their shuttles, and as well as guiding people out of the Commonwealth and being that front door entrance for the soccer fans, as well as their exit into the countries that they were visiting from. And then I also worked on the maritime sector. It was outside of my department. I was able to track the ships that coming in and the imports and the cargo industry that Boston has, and understanding the fisheries industry. And then as well as in the city building portfolio, Massport has a major role in the Seaport District, and I was able to understand how the buildings came together, and as well as understanding the history of Massport in terms of its community outreach and how it has built parks for the East Boston community, as well as I volunteered in events with the East Boston community. So I think understanding not just government as a regulator, but understanding government as an actor in a business sense of providing revenue for the Commonwealth just really generated my understanding of government as being a direct actor into the economy of the Commonwealth, and being that front door and being that first impression that future businesses and people that want to move here can take a good observation of what the Commonwealth has to offer. And Massport is lucky to be that agent to do that. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Isabel Fonseca, and this summer I had the opportunity to work at the Boston Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement. And coming into this fellowship, I had this kind of misconception that policy was something that we talked about briefly in class and then we kind of moved forward. And this fellowship gave me the opportunity to see that policy is not just about getting some extra credit points on your essay in class, but also about real people, real experiences, and real communities that are in need. So one of the projects that I worked on this summer was a policy memo about past, present, and future policy initiatives that the city should take in order to better support immigrant communities. And that showed me that policy, again, is not just about researching and writing memos, but it's about hearing a problem and finding a solution and finding a way to move it forward, even if that's a really difficult process, especially given the time that we're living in currently. So I want to thank my supervisor, Mario Paredes, for letting me engage in meaningful work, and my 2 mentors, Anna Munoz and Sean Fonts, for supporting me through the entire process.
Did I lose my phone? There we go. I wasn't going to use my notes, but I'm going to use my notes. Yeah. All right, good evening, everyone. I wasn't going to use my notes, but so I don't ramble beyond 75 seconds, I think I will use my notes. So my name is Robert Fernandez. I'm a rising 2L at Northeastern University School of Law, and this summer I had the privilege of working in the Governor's Office of Legal Counsel. I want to begin by extending my gratitude to Phyllis Rappaport, the Rappaport Foundation and family, my incredible mentors, James and Jen, Amanda Teo, and everyone in the Governor's Office that really made this summer such a rewarding experience for me. The Governor's Office of Legal Counsel, in my view, is really a microcosm of state government as a whole. Issues from across the state end up intersecting with the office in some fashion and in some way. And as such, I really had the privilege of working on an incredibly diverse set of issues, ranging from policy questions that touched on consumer protection, legal issues from Supreme Court decisions, and diving deep into IRS code and federal regulations. I also had a front row view on deliberations regarding clemency petitions, the arduous process of vetting judicial nominees, and then getting those nominees across the finish line in front of the Governor's Council. And so in the process, I really had the opportunity to see firsthand how dedicated public servants, who are oftentimes overworked and underpaid, show up every day to ensure that the lives of every resident of this Commonwealth is made better. So after this summer, I have never been more proud to call Massachusetts home. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Elizabeth Jones. I am currently a Master of Urban Planning student at the Harvard GSD, about to enter my second and final year, which is very exciting to go back to the workforce in good time. But this summer, I am so excited to share that I have been with the City of Boston's Mayor Office of Housing, and I've been working with Paige Rusa in the Housing Innovation Lab. Innovation is a word that feels like it's thrown around all the time today. But the Housing Innovation Lab truly does lead housing innovation for the city and arguably the state. I have been so excited to work on projects this summer, specifically co-purchasing and home repair. Now, I might ask you, what do you think is co-purchasing? Co-purchasing is the ability to co-purchase a multifamily home with either your mother, your parents, your siblings coming together, or even a group of people whose home is up for sale in a beautiful triple-decker and they want to stay in their place. Being able to revitalize the materials, make the process easier, and directly work with constituents was one of the joys of my summer. Now, I ask you another question as you're cutting into your meal. How many of you in this room have used a tool in the last year? You don't have to raise your hand, but just think about it. I'm excited to share that we understand that not everybody has a toolkit, home repair skills. So the other project I've been working on is launching the city's first Home Repair 101 course, known as A Beginner's Guide to Home Repair. This Saturday, for 2 hours, I will be leading this at City Hall with lovely folks from the Boston Home Center. And we are going to make sure that those 50 people, all of which who registered in the first 3 hours, selling out the class, which was free, to come and learn basic home repair skills so that we can make sure the Boston housing stock is well preserved, taken care of, and first-time homeowners are empowered to stay in their homes and don't suffer financial consequences of deferred maintenance. I'm really excited this summer to not only support first-time homeowners and home repair and maintenance, but think about what innovation means in policy and how that can influence my future career. I'm so grateful to be supported by lovely mentors, and they have been so integral in my understanding of what it means to work in research, work in city policy, both in Cambridge and at the BU Initiative on Cities. Thank you so much, and I'm very grateful to the Rappaport Foundation for letting me be here and be present this summer in this fellowship.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jackson Killalay. I'm a rising 2L at Harvard Law School, and this summer I worked in the Children and Family Law Division at the Committee for Public Counsel Services. A common cliche I hear about public interest law generally, but public defense in particular, is that attorneys serve as a voice for the voiceless. And I think this summer I learned that that cliche is completely wrong. Not a single one of the clients I worked with did not have a specific voice, specific fears, frustration, hopes. What they didn't have a lot of the time was somebody to hear them out. And so while the attorneys I worked with certainly spoke on behalf of their clients in court, I think their more vital work was in listening to them attentively, in seeking to understand their fears and frustrations. And I think maybe most importantly, recognizing the unique public policy expertise that these clients had from surviving within the child welfare system. And so going forward, I think I now feel that the way I can best affect change and have an impact in the kind of work I want to do is not by serving as anyone else's voice, but rather by being an attentive pair of listening ears. I'd like to thank Patricia Johnston and Anthony Benedetti for affording me the opportunity to work at CPCS this summer. I'd also like to thank my mentors, Sue Finnegan and John Miller, for their wisdom and also their generosity with their time. And lastly, I'd like to thank the rest of this fellowship cohort for offering not only your perspectives throughout the summer, but also your friendship.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zara Porter, and I am a current student at the Harvard Kennedy School, pursuing my master's in public policy. I had the amazing opportunity this summer to work with the Boston Mayor's Office of Women's Advancement. Through this fellowship, I had the opportunity to work on 2 projects focused on maternal and reproductive health, which is what my passion is, so it's been a great opportunity. One project is focusing on understanding the birth center landscape in both Boston, Massachusetts, and how the city can both help create and sustain these birth centers. Another project was focused on doula care and how to support that growing workforce. I've conducted over 20 interviews over the summer, so it's been pretty busy, and creating 2 memos for my team to help support and recommend policy recommendations for future things. I think this has been an amazing opportunity for me to apply my policy and research skills at the city level. I come from a think tank in Washington, D.C. prior to graduate school, so it's been great to do this at City Work, and it's also been amazing to be able to get up behind the scenes of seeing what city level work looks like, both at the policymaking and implementation. So I want to say thank you to my team, and also thank you to the E&I Cabinet, Equity Inclusion Cabinet, for hosting me. It's been a wonderful opportunity, and thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maya Luce, and I'm a rising 2L at Harvard Law School. And this summer, I have the privilege of working in the governor's office, specifically with the Cabinet and Policy Affairs team. There, I was reviewing draft regulations, legislation, grants, legislative reports, anything coming into the governor's office for approval. And through these projects, I really honed in on my ability to closely read and evaluate these kinds of proposed texts for potential issues ranging from policy or legal implications to clarity or alignment with stakeholder preferences. And I saw firsthand how much collaboration, compromise, and coordination is required across state agencies and working in state government. And I really gained a deeper appreciation of how policy is developed and the type of lawyer I want to become. So I want to thank the Rappaport Foundation for providing this opportunity, Amanda and Alexis for coordinating all our events, and to my cohort, my supervisors, and my mentors for all their guidance and support. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jay Rumis, and I'm placed at the Boston Mayor's Office working on the very humble events of the FIFA World Cup, Sail Boston, and America 250. And there are a lot of stories I could tell, but what we wanted to do when we started this project was to promote the city's values, but also to try to attract investment, economic development that would benefit all the neighborhoods of the city and our region more broadly. And I want to focus on 2 events specifically. So there were 2 events that were considered relatively small and kind of side tasks. If we didn't have a Rappaport Fellow, they may not have happened. One of these was the Sister City Agreement with Glasgow, Scotland. And when the mayor, thank you, when the mayor signed this, again, we thought this would be cute. Maybe we'd get an article out of it. But a lot of the Scottish press and a lot of American press showed up and cover this, and I was watching Matt Damon himself, Odysseus himself, talking about this Sister City Agreement on Seth Meyers' show, and I thought this was amazing that this started about a month ago and it became this. The second thing was we welcomed a lot of really amazing world leaders to Boston this year for the World Cup and Sail Boston, but by far the biggest press reception out of any of them was this orange traffic cone from Scotland that was dragged through Logan Airport. And this was the most interest I've seen from anything that has visited Boston during these events. And while this is funny, I think it also shows that sometimes these side events that no one would think of, unless they had capacity or investment from the city, they can really promote the city, and we're already seeing potential investments, cultural exchanges, educational agreements. And so I've learned that you can really make a difference on a local level, especially in international affairs, which is not the first thing you think of. You don't think of working in international affairs from the city level. And I've decided this is something I really want to work on. So thank you so much to everyone here. I have to say thank you to my mom. She'd be very mad if I did not. And thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I almost tripped on the tablecloth there. My name is Jennifer Price. I am a rising 2L at Boston University School of Law, and I spent my summer at the Office of the Secretary of the Commonwealth's Office in the Public Records Division. So during my time at the Secretary's office, I had the privilege of speaking to so many public records requesters and custodians across the Commonwealth, and I got to see how difficult it was to really thread the needle when it comes to government transparency. There are so many people across the Commonwealth who really need access to government records, from the press to incarcerated individuals who are trying to appeal their cases further, to folks who are just looking for answers. But I also saw that it can be really taxing for agencies and municipalities who are trying to balance responding to those requests with all of the other work that they have to do to support their communities and keep the Commonwealth running, especially when they're under-resourced. So while I did not come away from my summer with a solution to that delicate balance, it has been a helpful reminder as I continue my career in public service and in the law that there really is nuance to every single story and that it matters if you listen for it. So I would like to thank my supervisor, Rebecca Murray, and my wonderful mentors, Adam Cedarbaum and Ken Atkins Storr, as well as the Rappaport Foundation and all of the wonderful members of my cohort. So thank you.
Hello, hello. My name is Becky Lynn, and I'm a second-year master's student studying transportation planning and real estate development at MIT. And this summer, I've been working with MEVA, Merrimack Valley's Regional Transit Authority, to help establish bus stops around its 16 cities and towns. And so currently, the way how the system works is very much like a series of taxis. You flag down the bus, and then it comes to you, which can work in some areas, but if you're in a city like Lawrence, it's a bit dangerous. And so adding these bus stops doesn't make the system just safer, makes it more efficient, better service. So originally, when we came to work on this project, our goal was just to pilot in Lawrence, establish bus stops, I'll work with the community engagement piece, and then that will help set the track of how we're gonna be doing the bus stop projects throughout the other towns and cities, but things didn't turn out that way. So you might have heard that there have been a series of bus strikes that affected us, so things have been put out of commission last month, and so we've had to pivot. We've been able to establish bus stops along Lawrence's busiest corridor. I've been working with Groveland to decide where to put new routes, and are currently working with Haverhill and their local politicians to create a series of outreach events this coming fall to put in new routes. And so one thing I've really learned this time around has been like how important it is to be comfortable to work with uncertainty, because we may have a project in mind, especially as planners, to say, this is how it's gonna turn out. This is how we're gonna do this whole system-wide upgrade, and it just doesn't turn out like that, and that's okay. And so as I continue to work with the project into August, that's something I'll be carrying with me. And thanks you, Phyllis, and the Rappaport Foundation for helping support all this work.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Whitcomb. I am going into my second year at Suffolk University Law School, and I have had the honor of working this summer at the Executive Office of Administration and Finance. A&F is like the nervous system of state government. That's what I've learned. At some point, every regulation and anything else that costs us taxpayer money has to go through my office. So what does that look like in practice? Well, humorously, it means that every time I walked in my office, I had no idea what was going to catch on my desk. Some days I was looking at regulations for the Executive Office of Veteran Services. Some days I was looking at budget amendments for bills that are still going through the State House. Some days we were discussing economic development practices and trying to strategize the best way to get some of the governor's goals across the finish line. More so than any amazing legal experience that I had and learning more about the practice and the nuts and bolts of how that stuff actually gets done and the technical side to amendments and public records requests and everything else I looked at, I learned a lot about myself this summer. I learned the importance of understanding what you don't know, when the appropriate time to ask questions is. When you get faced with a problem you've never seen before, do your best and then ask for help, because every lawyer has to learn somewhere, you know? And that was really my experience. I got to experience so many things that I hadn't before. And I think, truthfully, that's what the Rappaport Fellowship is all about. It's teaching us how to be the leaders of tomorrow, not just that we can be. I want to thank my mentors, Peter Flaherty and Bill Walzak, for all of the advice they gave me over the last 10 weeks, and my supervisors from the office, Kushba Weber and Martha Kwasnick. They're both amazing. I'm also going to thank my mother, because if I don't embarrass her, it wouldn't be the same. The day before I started at my job, my mother graduated with her bachelor's degree from UMass Lowell. And I can say this very confidently, that if it wasn't for her dedication over the years, I wouldn't be in law school right now. So thank you for setting an example for me. And at some point, I hope that all of us can take what we've learned and the people we become and give back to the organization in the future. Which state am I going to?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Finney, and I am a dual degree student studying planning and real estate development at MIT. And this summer, I had the pleasure of working on the Strategic Community Investments Division of Mass Housing. And so during that time, I got to support the Neighborhood Stabilization Program and also the Equitable Developers Technical Assistance Program. And I also worked on a performance metrics framework to help better understand and articulate the division's impact. And I'm working right now to create a roadmap to better lay out how the division can start measuring those things over time. I'd say my team, especially my supervisor, Monique Gibbs, who is also a former Rappaport Fellow, really helped me understand this summer that policy is very much about process. It's not static, but that it's constantly iterative and actually can be creative as you're constantly tinkering with what you're doing. And the last thing I'll just say is that my background's in affordable rental development, but this summer really opened my eyes to the need that's often overlooked in affordable housing, but the need to rehabilitate smaller vacant properties, especially across Western Mass, and the need to just develop those properties, return them to families block by block. So really grateful for this experience this summer.
Hi, my name is Isis Cano Santiago. I am a rising 2L at Boston University. This summer, I worked at the AGO's office in the Medicaid Fraud Division. As a former Medicaid recipient myself from birth to the age of 18 and a strong advocate for universal health coverage and accessible health care, helping to defend the Medicaid program against persons and entities who seek to unravel it was truly a privilege. I worked on several projects, but I am particularly proud of having assisted in drafting a motion to oppose a removal to federal court for a lawsuit against a large insurance company which defrauded the Medicaid program out of millions of dollars. I am also proud of having written a legal memo which will help the division attorneys in developing a legal strategy against hospitals who abuse and neglect patients. I learned that as terrifying as the national policies that have threatened Medicaid access have been, state governments are more than equipped to fight back and protect people's right to health care. I came into this internship certain that I didn't want to litigate, but this internship taught me that I actually enjoy the fast-paced environment of litigation, the urgency of deadlines to file documents, and seeing legal change happen inside a courtroom. In addition to the Rappaport Foundation, I am also grateful to my supervisor, Katie Davis, and my mentors, Mary Beckman and Carmen Ortiz. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Afsana Alam, and I'm a PhD student at UMass Boston. This summer, I am working with the City of Boston's Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, an initiative called Invest Boston. So the focus is really helping small business, especially in the underserved community, to get access to capital and business support. And out of really many good memories, one of them is during a field visit to Nubian Square, my supervisor took me to a Colombian restaurant. The food is great, by the way. But I have been to many restaurants before, but for the first time, I was not really only a customer, but I was thinking about the business owner, question like, does she rent or own this building? Does she know that support exists, or how could she find those supports? So one thing I learned this summer, when it comes about small businesses, Boston is not under-resourced, but it's under-coordinated. We have the capital, we have the organizations, but they are not always connected around the business they are meant to serve. So Invest Boston has not launched yet, but the moment I was sitting in that restaurant thinking about that business owner, I really knew that this work mattered so much, and I just hope that one day I can walk into that restaurant knowing that she was able to find the support she needed through the project that I'm working on. And thank you so much to everyone who has been make this journey so meaningful for me, and to my parents who will watch the video later, by the way. So I have to mention that forever thankful to my parents to encourage me to dream bigger. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chinyere Azike. I am a PhD student at the University of Massachusetts Boston's Global Inclusion and Social Development Program. This summer, I am placed with the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development, where I am helping to modernize compliance monitoring so that workforce programs can deliver consistent, high-quality services. This fellowship has been one of the most incredible journey into public service, from grassroots organizing, serving persons with disability through my nonprofit, to policy advocacy in the congressional offices, and now strengthening the workforce systems in Massachusetts. I have learned a lot during this fellowship, but one strikes out to me mostly. During one of our weekly visits, one of the speakers said something that I haven't shaked off. She said, everything you see in the city is or are the decisions made by people. And that statement has caused me to pause, to reflect and ask, how can I approach my work with the care, with the attention, with the excellence needed, knowing that people's lives are impacted by it? And so I would like to thank the Rappaport Foundation for this incredible opportunity to not just contribute, but to learn, to reflect, and to think beyond myself. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Guay. I'm a rising 2L at Boston College Law School. I'd like to start by thanking my lovely wife, Ivy. It is a pleasure to raise our two lovely children together, and nice to get out for a night. I'd like to thank next Amanda and Alexis for giving me the opportunity to work at the Attorney General's office in Worcester, close to home in the community where I live. I'd like to thank my mentors, Vince Damore and Commissioner Mike Calju, for helping me plan out a career in law and public policy. And finally, I'd like to thank my supervisor, Ann Ruffolo from the Worcester Attorney General's office for giving me the opportunity to work broadly in the Division of Open Government, Housing Affordability, and the Municipal Law Unit, doing a lot of work in the contested area between the Commonwealth and its municipalities where decisions are made that have a real impact on real people. So thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Venice. I am an incoming second year at the Master's of Urban Planning program at Harvard GSD. And I had the privilege of working at the Department of Energy Resources this summer, which is the state energy policy office. They're tasked with supporting the Commonwealth's transition into clean energy. And critical to that work is building level data. A lot of teams collect and track that data for various reasons, mass save programming, affordability work, things of that nature. And as you guys know, working in government or nonprofits, silos are the death of progress. And so for the past 10 weeks, my main role has been creating a GIS tool to align all of those data sets to create more meaningful insights that actually embed itself into our future climate plan. The biggest lesson in this is that, we've always heard the metaphor of, good data equals good policy. But there's also a responsibility in choosing which data gets into that policy. In building level data, the cleanest and easiest data has always been single family homes when we're looking at the residential sector. The thing that is very tricky and messy is multifamily housing energy usage. And so a lot of my work was learning about being uncomfortable with the stickiness and the difficulty of unraveling that data. And I think that that's where progress really happens. And I'm just really appreciative of the opportunity to be in that tension-filled unclarity. But yeah, I would like to thank Lynn, my supervisor at DOER, as well as my mentors, Claudia and Amanda. They've been such grounding forces into my summer this year, and thank you to everyone at Rappaport.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Pinney. I'm a recent graduate of the Harvard Kennedy School, and I spent my summer at the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. I was researching how the building code interacts with construction costs and how changes to the code could potentially result in more housing, all while maintaining the highest level of life safety. I began the fellowship thinking primarily about how government can support housing. I'm leaving with a much deeper understanding of the government's individual rules, processes, collectively determine whether housing can actually be built. I'd like to thank my supervisor, Phil, and my mentor, Amy Dane. Thanks so much.
Hi, my name is Nicole Levesque. I am a law student at Northeastern University. And this summer, I'm working at the Executive Office of Health and Human Services and the Office of General Counsel. I'll say I have a background as both a Peace Corps volunteer and as a federal government regulator, and so I've seen the two extremes of direct service and also being very deep in the government bureaucracy. So this summer gave me an opportunity to see both views at the same time, which was something that I was really seeking and is exactly what I got. I worked primarily reviewing Medicaid appeals, so typically in cases where a constituent was denied either coverage or was removed from a nursing home. And I stepped in cases where they just needed another chance to plead their case after the Board of Hearings. And just last week, I was able to see both the policy impact of each decision that we make and also the personal impact of approving a case for an individual who couldn't live at home and just what it meant to him and his family to have coverage for him to live in a nursing home where he needed the care. So that was a really great opportunity to see both and something that I saw many times throughout the summer. I did also just want to quickly note the summer was really full of endless opportunities that I would not have had otherwise. I think all of the programming from Amanda and Alexis, bringing us to the Supreme Judicial Court, also arranging for an entire panel of appeal court justices to speak with us, getting to meet Mayor Wishal Wu, which was my dream. It was so much fun, and it would not have happened without the Rappaport Fellowship, so I am just truly appreciative. And I also, in addition to the foundation and to Phyllis Rappaport, wanted to thank my mentor, Mike Capuano, and my mentors, Christy and Nikki. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alexandra Crocker, and I'm from the Boston University School of Public Health. I was working with the Massachusetts Department of Developmental Services this summer. Working under my supervisor, Bridget Casey, I created and conducted a qualitative survey to analyze the Assistive Technology Program. The AT program is something that connects individuals living with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the state with items that can help them to become more independent. And this project meant so much to me as somebody who's passionate about disability policy. And in surveying DDS staff members across the state, I was able to collect data about the program's implementation and then make recommendations for strengthening the program's future. As somebody who is passionate about disability policy, this gave me such great hands-on experience, and I'm just so thankful for that. And I plan to, as I approach my graduation from BUSPH, to carry what I learned from DDS into my future and continue to advocate for the independence and equity of people living with disabilities. So I'd like to thank everybody here tonight, and especially my supervisor, Bridget Casey, again, my mentors, and my mom, who's here with me today. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sane. I'm a second-year medical student at Harvard, and this summer I spent my time at Mass Health, which is the state's Medicaid agency. And I learned a lot, and I was originally going to go into a little bit about my project, but I guess I'll start with why I went into medicine and why that connects with policy. A lot of the times in medicine, it's a lot about the physiology of the patient, treating the patient, thinking about their labs and their values, but one of the reasons that I really chose it as a career and a profession moving forward is because it provides hope to patients. You can really see the look on a family's face when you update them on a patient or when you're talking with the patient about their diagnosis, telling them a little bit more about what's going on with them. Even though it's a tough situation, you're always providing hope. And I think what I learned this summer through my work is that policy is hope. When we are building this infrastructure, one of the projects I worked on was basically trying to find a way to cover a new treatment for stimulant use disorder under Medicaid. And when we do that, we're providing those patients that are struggling with addiction, that are struggling with these issues, with hope. And so that's something I really walked away with, is this concept of hope and how it connects both medicine and policy for me. I want to thank my mentors and my family for providing me this opportunity, and of course the Rappaport Foundation as well. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Ruiz Fernandez. I'm a rising second year public policy student at the Harvard Kennedy School. This summer I had the absolute privilege of serving as a Rappaport Public Policy Fellow at the Executive of Office and Housing of Livable Communities, the third fellow, by the way. And so this summer I really had the privilege of diving deep into the RAFT program, which is a Residential Assistance for Families in Transition program, the largest rental assistance program here in the state. So it impacts a lot of individuals, a lot of households, and I dove into examining access to and equity within the RAFT program, and that looked like a lot of different sort of pathways, one of which was talking to applicants who had, whether successfully or unsuccessfully, gone through the program and trying to analyze what barriers they had encountered and how we could facilitate that for future applicants and for the applicant as well. This hit really close to home because I was a recipient of similar programs like RAFT from my home state, and so it's the reason why I'm here today. And as part of this program, as part of this project, I really wanted to emphasize the people-first, community-centered approach, and I think we did that as well as quantitative analysis. So I just want to thank my Supervisor Vivian Pham, who's also on the board of Rappaport, for allowing me to challenge myself and also for equipping me with the tools to be successful in doing that. And also Jalissa Jean Lewis, who provided instrumental mentorship throughout this summer, to the Rappaport Institute, and to Polly, who I feel like is the heart of the Rappaport Institute. So thank you so much, Polly.
don't know which way to face everyone. Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Rusha, and I'm a rising 2L at Boston College Law School. This summer, I had the privilege of interning at the Office for Refugees and Immigrants. I want to begin by thanking Phyllis Rappaport and the Rappaport Foundation for making this experience possible. I'm also incredibly grateful to my supervisors, Susan Church, Carol Leone, and Ronnie Millar, and to my mentors, An Lee and Mary Moraine, for their guidance and encouragement throughout the fellowship. This summer, I witnessed and contributed to public programs in various stages of development, from contract renegotiations for the Massachusetts Access to Counsel Initiative to the early stages of the ICE Constitutional Accountability Project. I investigated how the Massachusetts Civil Rights Act could allow individuals to hold federal officers accountable for violating their constitutional rights. I also helped coordinate immigration clinics, built training guides for community organizations, and explored how the AG's office could hold people accountable for defrauding immigrants. Before this summer, I imagined a policy internship might feel far removed from the client-centered work that motivated me to come to law school. I quickly learned that this was not the case at all at ORI. In fact, ORI's leadership is composed of people who have had years of on-the-ground community advocacy experiences. And I discovered that the most effective policy is shaped by leaders who continue to listen, to learn from, and advocate alongside the communities that they serve. Who is leading the fight matters just as much as what the fight is about. There are so many obstacles that can impede well-intentioned state programs, from funding to staffing issues to political ambivalence. However, ORI's leadership consistently meets these obstacles with creativity and never complacency. The fellowship taught me that effective leadership in public service means fostering an environment where everyone is welcome in the conversation to problem solve. So thank you to everyone who made this internship possible.
Hello, my name is Molly Murphy, and I'm a rising 2L at Boston College Law School. This summer, I had the opportunity to work in the Housing Affordability Unit of the Attorney General's office. I think many of us can see and feel that we are facing a housing crisis here in Massachusetts, and this summer was a timely and wonderful experience to be able to spend the summer seeing how the law can be a tool in tackling this crisis. I spent the summer conducting legal research on questions tied to litigation, attending meetings and conferences of folks from all backgrounds and perspectives dedicated to housing, and most significantly, drafting an amicus brief for the office in a case involving the Dover Amendment that will be before the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court this fall. The summer allowed me to see how the law, and specifically the legal power and authority of the Attorney General's office, can be a powerful tool in both enforcing and shaping housing policy. I was able to see how units in the AGO can be nimble, proactive, and responsive all at the same time, and gain a fuller understanding of how the law and lawyering impacts key housing tools ranging from zoning to temporary shelters to preventing brokers' fees. I know this type of understanding of how the law can be leveraged to make real change will be something I carry with me through the rest of my career. I'd like to thank the Rappaport Foundation, Institute and Center, and Amanda Teo and Alexis Albert for this opportunity. I'd also like to thank my supervisor, Margaret Hurley, and my mentors, Sam Dinning and Paige Scott Reed, for all their time, support, and guidance this summer. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Julia Berard, and I'm a rising 2L at BU Law. This summer, I also had the privilege of interning in the Attorney General's office with the Reproductive Justice Unit. Throughout my summer, I had the opportunity to attend hearings, to contribute to multi-state litigation strategy, and to dive deep into research projects on health insurance billing codes, on midwifery licensure, and the lack of any scientific evidence for claims that mifepristone is in our waterways and somehow impacting the habitats of endangered species of salmon. But more than any individual project, I learned this summer what it looks like to lawyer for the people, what it means to understand how the law operates in the lives of residents every day, to center protecting access to care as the goal, and importantly, how to argue rationally with increasingly irrational arguments. So I want to thank my incredible supervisors, Allison Slater and Morgan Carmen at the RJU, and my Rappaport mentors, Jennifer Serafin and Eric Lesser, for all of their guidance and support throughout the summer. I'm excited to carry this with me as I pursue a concentration in health law and participate in BU Law's first ever reproductive justice practicum this year. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony Mejia. I'm a MSW student over at Boston University. This summer, I had the opportunity to work with the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, specifically the Massachusetts Parole Board. My project focused on developing a process to examine whether people released on parole were being referred to services that match the identified needs before their release. This matters because reentry should help people return to their communities safely, build stability, and avoid returning to the system. When important needs go unaddressed, successful reentry becomes more difficult, creating avoidable risks for both the individual and the broader community. I learned how complex these systems are and how much coordination and buy-in it does take to get overall support to really push the needle. This experience has really just kind of confirmed that there's just so much work to do in this area, and I am hoping to really be able to contribute to something that is a lot bigger than myself. I just want to give a shout out to my man Dan, being patient with me, and Polly as well, giving me the opportunity as well. Thank you.
Did we miss any fellows? Everybody talked? Okay. So thank you once again. I know many of the fellows, all of the fellows, thanked supervisors and mentors already, but I just wanted to give one more thanks from all the staff here. We can't do our job if you don't help us. So by giving great placements, being wonderful supervisors, as well as being mentors. So thank you once again. Please enjoy the rest of your dinners. Dessert will come out soon, and then we'll hear from Jeff and Phyllis.
All right, can I have your attention one more time? Hi, everyone. Can I have your attention one more time, please? I want to do a couple more thanks before we wrap up. First of all, can you join me in thanking the staff of the Treehouse here who's taken such good care of us today? And then, because Polly did all the thanking of everyone else, I just want to give us an opportunity to thank Polly and Amanda and Alexis one more time for making the whole fellowship happen the way it did. I'm so tempted to tell you the 10 things that Ted Lasso could learn from Polly O'Brien about empowering people and building a good team. And if Ted Lasso were half as good at recruiting talent for AFC Richmond as Polly is at assembling the mentors and the supervisors, I think it wouldn't have taken 3 seasons for them to finally win. But I will resist going on in that vein. Okay, so my last job tonight is to introduce someone very special, Phyllis Rappaport. There are a lot of philanthropists who give a lot of money to a lot of causes, but only a few of them really have great impact. And I think the ones who have great impact that I've at least encountered in my life have 3 characteristics. One is that they care incredibly deeply about making an impact in the communities in which they live. The second is they have an ability to see how things are and imagine things being different. And the third is that after they give out money, they actually stay involved, ask hard questions of the grantees, and hold them accountable and make them perform at a high level of excellence. Because Phyllis has all these characteristics, I think she and certainly she and Jerry, when they were a team, have really made a big difference, and it's been quite a treat for me to get to work with Phyllis over the years. So Phyllis, please come up.
Thank you, Jeff. And I really appreciate everything you said earlier about Jerry. Because Jerry had a real love affair with this city, and he had a real love affair with me. And my table asked, how did this even get started? And it got started because Jerry started a foundation in 1997. He wanted to give back to the community he loved so much. And he made me chair of the foundation, and he invited some of our kids. And we thought about the philanthropy we had done earlier, and we had 2 favorites. We give full scholarships to one elected and one appointed official in the city of Boston to attend the Kennedy School. And we still do that today. And we also did some medical research and realized there weren't a lot of people doing that. So we wanted to build on these 2 avenues of work, and Jerry really loved the idea of somehow merging top academic talent in the city with public policy. And we didn't have a formal idea, but I went to school on philanthropy and learned how to evaluate good results. And somebody suggested we send a request for proposal to the various universities saying, we want to do something, bring us your ideas. And we didn't get a lot of responses, but luckily we attended a funeral of a professor at Harvard, and one of the persons there worked at the Taubman Center. He was the faculty chair there at the Kennedy School, and he said, I want to do something. And he and his wife flew to Florida, and Jerry and I and the 2 of them came up with some ideas. He had an idea for maybe an executive director of a Rappaport Institute. He had an idea for a consultant. And we spent really about 3 years designing what you're part of today. Wow, this was an amazing night. And part of it is, I think that this is the most articulate, well-spoken group of summer fellows that I've ever heard. And Jerry and I told you we had a love affair. We had a love affair with all of you. We loved coming to this night. We loved hearing all of you. We have a lot of children. We have a lot of grandchildren. And we have one daughter in particular who hasn't achieved great heights in her career. And they said, thank God for the Rappaport Fellows, because you don't have to worry about me. You have all these high achievers. And you're already shaping policy, so you know that at a very young age you can make that happen. These fellowships were a bold idea because they required collaboration between two universities in the city, initially Suffolk University and Harvard, and they'd never collaborated before, and now Boston College and Harvard. And it also involved supporting students from across all different schools, which is not something universities usually do. And it provides a pool of talent to state and local government, which is unparalleled and powerful, and you've proven that. And I give you these details because our foundation is seeking the next big idea. And we want an idea that might be impactful for the next 25 years. So I'm throwing this out there because you're smart, and as you walk around and you've seen various things going on in this city, if you have ideas for us, we would be open to hearing them. So let me tell you a little more about the philanthropy of our foundation. I mentioned that we send two officials to the Kennedy School. And that wasn't easy. When we started this in the 1980s, the people who attended the Kennedy School were often from the military or the federal government. There were not a lot of state and local officials. And the Kennedy School, frankly, looked at us as if we were sending them the great unwashed. And Jerry said, you will learn more from them than they will from you. Each year, we support numerous scientists doing research in neurologic diseases and mental illness at Mass General Brigham and McLean hospitals. And last year, we made a really big gift, which includes a challenge grant inviting teams of doctors from across hospitals to come up with solutions to some of the biggest medical problems. We celebrate contemporary artists through a Rappaport Cash Prize, which is delivered annually by the DeCordova Sculpture Park and Museum. And they do a wonderful job picking artists, and 3 of the artists they selected became MacArthur Genius Award winners afterwards. We contribute to Empath, which helps women gain economic independence, and I saw Kim Janey here earlier, who leads that organization, and the Valedictorian Project, which enables Boston valedictorians and top high school students from other communities to succeed in college and beyond. In 2004, we and 2 other families started the Cure Alzheimer's Fund, which has gifted over $270 million to try to stop this terrible disease. And we just fund scientists, and the money that we've given has been multiplied many times by grants from National Institutes of Health and other organizations. Our foundation logo, which I think you received in some pins, is a laurel wreath, and it symbolizes our commitment to celebrating the talent that is in each of you and in our other recipients, because you are our superheroes and Olympic stars. We're proud of ways that you and our many other Rappaport Fellows may break new ground, challenge society and medical norms, give voice to the disenfranchised, and improve opportunities for economic strength in our state and local government. I hope that this summer helps you excel in whatever you choose to do. And if you have some big wins, please let our foundation know about it so we can share in your pride. I'm grateful for everyone who's helped make this evening possible, our terrific partners at Harvard and Boston College Law School. the advisors and mentors that supported each of you in your journey. I want to also thank my foundation's board. They're not all here tonight, but we do have James, John, and Liz Rappaport, and Jim Siegel. And to my, yeah, they're superstars. And to my terrific staff, I have two here, Tim Medlock and Janelle Chaffee. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do to help us succeed. And I'm just so proud of everyone here, so thank you. Have a good evening.